What's up, everybody? Welcome to Sit Down. I'm DJ Sixsmith. Hanging out with a Hall of Famer today, Andy Bernstein, Hall of Fame photographer. How are you?
DJ, nice to be here. Thanks so much.
Of course.
Thrilled to be here
Yeah,
today.
It's great to meet you, and it's a really awesome time to talk to you because the Mamba Mentality is out.
Yep.
It's an unbelievable work of art, and sure it must have been pretty fascinating to put that together. But before we get into it, I want to learn about your life and your career. So take me back to the early days of Brooklyn, picking up a camera for the first time. How do you first get involved in all this?
Well, great question. I don't know if I can remember that far back, but like you said, I did grow up in Brooklyn, and my first foray into photography was my dad giving me a camera. I was 14 years old, and we made a trip out west to see national parks, and I just took to it immediately. I just loved the idea of creating something through the camera, and in those days we were shooting film, you know, so you couldn't really see what you were doing. And we would put the film in a mailer, and it would go back to my house in Brooklyn. So after 2 weeks, we came back, and there were stacks and stacks of Kodachrome boxes waiting for us. And it's a funny story, but my dad sort of fashioned himself as an amateur photographer. He was a doctor. But, you know, anything my dad tried, he thought he was, like, really good at.
Interesting.
You know? So we're looking through these boxes of film, and, of course, he was shooting, and I was shooting. And he's looking through, oh, this is unbelievable picture of the Old Faithful, and a great picture of Yosemite. Look at this picture of Grand Canyon. And I said, hold on, Dad, give me that box. And he gives me the box, and I look through it, and there's like 3 or 4 pictures of him. You know, I said, I don't think those are your pictures, Bob. Those are mine. It's from my camera. And he goes, okay, kid, all right, maybe you got something there. So it just took off from there. I had a very good friend in high school. I went to a huge high school, Midwood High School in Brooklyn, and he had a darkroom in his basement, and that was, it was literally like watching the magic happen. I mean, just watching the print come up right before your eyes, you know, under that orange light, you know, and know that you created that thing, you know, whatever it is that was coming up. So I did a lot in high school, and then I went to college, University of Massachusetts. And we had a daily newspaper, and that's where I kind of learned how to do assignments of all different kinds. I was shooting entertainment and sports and features, and when I was at UMass, Jimmy Carter was running for president.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I'm like 900 years old here, but and he came through our campus, and I got to cover that. You know, and it was the front page of the paper. I was like 18 years old.
That's a huge experience as an 18-year-old.
It was fantastic. But I wasn't learning the real science of photography and how to work with light and how to light things and how to really kind of, you know, understand that it could be actually a career, you know. And so I transferred to a school in California, Art Center College of Design, and very hardcore, you know, advertising commercial school, but I was the black sheep because I wanted to do sports. Right. So I had a couple of mentors there, teachers who are still great friends after 40 plus years, and they pointed me to some Sports Illustrated photographers, and that's really how my career started. I became an assistant for them. I learned primarily how to light indoor arenas with these giant strobe units.
Which I'm sure is a really difficult thing.
Yeah, and only a few people, honestly, in the country knew how to do it at the time. And Sports Illustrated was the only entity that was doing it. It was very expensive. It was trucking around these, you know, cases and cases of equipment, roping them up to the catwalk, just for that one game that night, hooking them up for the photographer, working with that photographer, taking this film, bringing it to the airport to ship it back
It's
to
just
New York.
amazing how much it has changed.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. So, you know, I just was, you know, I was a Brooklyn guy, and I knew how to kind of get my way, you know. And
you were crafty.
Yeah, I had some moxie, or some minch, as you might call it, and I got my foot in the door at the Forum with the Lakers and the Kings and the Forum people. You know, everyone was in one place at that time. And one thing led to the other, and I was really at the right place at the right time for the NBA job that came my way in '83. It was an all-star game there in LA. And then the year after, I became the Dodgers team photographer in '84. So things really took off from there. And of course, you know, the history of the NBA just exploded at that point.
I mean, you came in at a perfect time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Definitely. So when you think about your career, you've been a part of so many magical moments, but just talking about the Staples Center, I mean, it's an incredible place, and people love to talk about the Garden as the Mecca, but there's something unique about the Staples Center. So for somebody that spent so much time there, how do you describe it when you're there and the Lakers are playing and celebrities are front row?
Well, Staples is an amazing place because if you go back to before Staples was built, you know, that part of downtown LA, you wouldn't even drive through there. And Phil Anschutz, Tim Leiweke at the time had the vision to stick an arena in downtown LA. It was like people thought they were crazy, but it's turned out to be pretty much the mecca, as you would say, of LA. LA Live, you know, now with Microsoft Theater. You know, it's an 8,000 seat theater across the street from Staples. We have 4 professional teams playing in our building, which, you know, no other arena has that.
I mean, 2 NBA teams.
Yeah, 2 NBA teams, WNBA team, and the Kings. So I also work for the LA Kings. I've been with them for over 30 years. So my group is responsible for everything that happens on campus, the sports, the entertainment, the award shows, you know, all the stuff that happens around the holidays. But it's an incredible vibe there at Staples. You know, Laker games and Clipper games and Kings. I mean, let's not forget the Kings have won 2 Stanley Cups on home ice.
Yeah, and there's nothing like that.
There's nothing like it. And you know, I was around celebrities at the Forum. And you know, Jack Nicholson has the same seats that he had, you know,
for all those
at
years
Staples.
Still going, yeah.
And it's great seeing him and Denzel and all the guys that come out. But you know, from year one, the Lakers won the championship the first year, the 99-2000 season. It just kind of set the bar, you know. And the Sparks have won 2 championships there. The Kings have won, you know.
I mean, it's been an incredible LA
yeah,
run
it's
during
been
your
great.
time.
It's been great. And we have 300 some odd events just in Staples Center every year. I think we've had 12 double headers so far this season with any combination of Lakers, Clippers, and Kings. So the building is like 24/7. It's crazy. And right now, at this moment, the Grammys take over.
Yeah.
So every year, except for last year, when the Grammys were here in New York, the building literally shuts down for about 12 days. Grammys come in. The 3 teams go out on the road. You know, it's called the Grammy trip. You know, and they're used to it by now.
Yeah, just like San Antonio's rodeo trip.
Right,
you know?
exactly.
Same thing.
That's right. And I've been through that too. When I actually traveled with the Spurs one year, way back, with maybe Tim Duncan's 2nd or 3rd year, during the rodeo trip. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely an interesting life as an NBA photographer.
Yeah.
And you mentioned all the different people that have come through Staples. One of those guys is Kobe Bryant. So take me back to October of '96, because you say it in the book, MJ, Magic, Kobe, your favorite guys that you photographed. What was it about Kobe in those initial days that created that spark between you guys?
Well, I met him on Media Day in '96. He just turned 18, and there was so much hype about him. He came out of high school. He was this phenom, and you know the whole story about how he was traded on draft day for Vlade and everything. And I love Vlade. He's a good friend of Vlade. I still am a good friend of Vlade's. So you know, this kid had a lot to prove. Yeah. And he had this air about him, this like confidence, and that was just visible, honestly. And I met him, and he said he knew who I was, and he had my posters growing up in his room.
Which must have been incredible for you.
I mean, you know, who reads the photo credit on a poster? You know, but this guy. And so we just established a great relationship from day one, and from rookie year to the final year, 20 years later, it was just really a once-in-a-career relationship for me, an opportunity to really witness how he grew from a kid. I mean, literally was a kid, teenager, into this veteran and icon of the game, a 5-time champion, Olympic gold medalist, MVP, you know, all the accolades, leader, and now, you know, he's so revered all over the world. So to have an opportunity to do a book with him, I pitched it to him. He didn't particularly like the original idea I had, but wanted to do a book with me.
What was the original idea?
Well, I wanted to do this giant coffee table book. You know, there's a company that does these huge coffee table books, and I thought that his career was kind of larger than life. So he was
I agree
kind
with
of,
that, definitely.
you know, something like this would be appropriate for him, and he's looking through it, and my vision was that huge pictures, a little bit of type, you know, and he would contribute that copy. And he closed it very respectfully, and he said, "Andy, this is nice, and we're going to do a book together. It's just not going to be this book. We're going to do the book I want to do." I said, I'll do any book you want, Mr. Mamba.
Just sign me up.
What are we doing? And we spent about an hour and a half just kicking around ideas. He had a vision, I think even before I came in, that he wanted to be able to kind of impart his knowledge and everything that he did privately that only I was privy to, honestly. All his private workouts, the way he conditioned himself and took care of himself, and his meditation practices and recovering from injury, his preparation, you know, his just everything that made him who he was, literally the Mamba. And that is summed up in Mamba Mentality. It's how he's approached the game, and now how he approaches everything after he played. So it's interesting that the subtitle of the book, you know, it's Mamba Mentality, How I Play, right? Doesn't say how I played.
Right,
because
he's still going.
Like how I play.
Yeah.
I'm not like bouncing the ball anymore, but I'm still out there, and this is how I approach life and how I approach business.
Yeah, and I think the book, the way that it turned out, kind of combines the best of both worlds for you guys, because there are those big photos, and it can really still be a coffee table book, because it is larger than most other books, but at the same time, he gets to write, he gets to reveal his secrets, and that's really cool too, because it's not only the training, but it's players, and I was really interested in one moment, that picture of him and Jordan, and how he was able to learn about balance from that photo, and how he was so off balance. And that's just an amazing example of your picture helping to define his career. I mean, that must be fascinating for you.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's unbelievably fascinating, but I mean, it's humbling, actually. But what's even more humbling is the fact that he told me, and I didn't know this until we started doing the book, that he used my photos to improve his game.
Wow.
And to learn about other players. So when he was a teenager growing up and he would see my photos and other people's photos, he would study everything about the photo. You know, everything from positioning to, you know, how a guy is guarding another guy, dunk technique, whatever it could be. And he incorporated that into his game. And then once he started playing, he would look at my photos, not only of him, but of his opponents, and learn about himself, and learn how to play against another guy, learn the guy's tendencies, weaknesses. So it became very challenging when we did the book, because I had to find photos that were very specific to what he wanted to talk about. So like the Jordan one was kind of easy, because there wasn't a lot of photos of him interacting with Michael. He did very early in his career, and that was very important to have. And he literally is picking Michael's brain during a game, you know, during a game and then during an all-star game. And there are a couple of photos in there, and one is very self-deprecating, if you remember, that he talks about how guarding Michael, he was doing everything wrong, right? So that he could look at that photo, and you and I, honestly, I don't know that. I mean, I'm just taking the picture, and it's a great moment, and the two, you know, greats of the game. But he's looking at him, breaking it down, dissecting it as to everything he's doing wrong with his positioning and his arm, and he's seeing how Michael is taking advantage and will take advantage of whatever, you know, he's doing that isn't going to contribute to him stopping him, you know. So it was amazingly revealing to me to have him say that.
Definitely, and he talks about how he needed to get stronger over the years, and you see his body developing.
Oh,
and then,
for sure.
You know, I think the rawest moment is when he tears his Achilles, because you were privy to some really private moments. And you say in the book that you've never heard the Staples Center quieter at that moment. So first, take me back to that moment, documenting the torn Achilles, and then just being a part of those private moments and building him back up. What was that like for you?
Well, and I remember, honestly, like it was yesterday, I was on the Lakers bench side of the court. The action was going towards the other basket, and it was just like some innocuous moment. I mean, he just made a move, and he went straight down, and okay, maybe he slipped, right? In that maybe half a second, but then the next half second, everyone knew something was wrong, because he immediately went to his like calf, and just the look on his face, I think like myself and 20,000 other people just said, "Wow, this is not good." I mean, we've never seen him go down like that and react that way.
He plays through everything.
Yeah, I mean, he might wince, or he might, you know, he busted his finger. I've seen it actually happen, you know. And Gary Vitti would go out and pull it and tape it, and he'd go out and play.
He's good to go.
But when he didn't get up right away, and then I looked over at Gary, and you could just see, you know, this was not good. And you know, it's sports history, how he heroically got up and went to the bench and then went back down half the court, more than half the court, to shoot those 2 free throws.
Took the free throws.
And then
Crazy.
walked off the court. You know, he got some help, but literally, you know, his own power. And then everything that happened afterwards, and he had his young daughters there, and he didn't want to come out, you know, looking like the world had ended, so he put on as optimistic a face as he could, but we all knew, and he knew especially. And at that point in his career, you know, what was that, like probably his 16th, 17th season? Most guys would have said, you know, it's been a great run.
I'm packing it in,
yeah,
that's it.
I won a lot of rings,
Yep.
made money, done a lot of things. You know, this is just going to be too hard to come back from this, or you know, I don't want to really come back half speed or whatever.
Right.
There was no way, and he obviously talks about it in the book, that an injury was going to define when he was going to hang it up. Only he was going to make that decision.
Right.
So he just buckled down and just went at his rehab with this sole vision of coming back as good as he was before, and he did, because I don't know how he did it, but you know, his final game, dude scores 60 points.
Unreal.
And, you know, drops the mic, and that's it.
I mean, you've seen everything in your career, but that one must have just been insane.
And I felt like literally it was like a Twilight Zone. I mean, it was like, how is this really happening?
This is impossible.
I mean, the only thing that comes close to that, honestly, that feeling was when, in the '92 All-Star game, and I'm just remembering this now as we're talking, when Magic and Isaiah were going at it, and all the backstory of that, of Magic, you know, retiring abruptly 3 months before, David Stern allowing him to play. He's in an all-star game with players who openly said they wouldn't play with him on the court. And then Magic and Isaiah go at it at the end, and Magic's draining threes, and Isaiah's draining threes. And just the feeling in the arena of like this joy. It was truly like joyful. And when he walked off the court for the last time, you know, Kobe didn't want people to be down about it. I mean, yes, he knew that everyone's going to miss him, but he wanted people to remember and the joy that he brought, especially to Staples Center.
He brought a lot of joy.
Yeah, so it was an incredible day, amazing. I was with him that entire day from early morning until well into the night, and I'll never forget it.
That's amazing. So Andy, when people check out the book and they think about the Mamba mentality, how would you define it, and what do you want them to think about when they check it out?
Well, the Mamba mentality to Kobe is really being the best you can be and then taking it to another level. And that can be applied to everything in life. I don't want to get too philosophical, but you know, the Mamba mentality, I mean, we all can have it. Yeah. And how we apply ourselves to parenting, to our jobs, to life in general. It's very inspirational, and he lays that out really clearly, and he lays it out in a way that it's sort of a roadmap of his career that built up to becoming the Mamba, but the Mamba having the mentality of really taking his game and his commitment to it to the next level. And that's what makes him the icon that he is.
Kobe Bryant, one of the best to ever pick up a basketball. Andy Bernstein, one of the best to ever pick up a camera. Andy, thanks so much.
Thanks, EJ.
Absolute pleasure.
Awesome.
You guys can grab the Mamba Mentality wherever books are sold. We'll see you next time here on The Sit Down.